Thank you guys so much for joining me again today for another episode of Corona Chronicles Live. I am excited to have a repeat guest today. We have Robert Heath here, who is going to be talking to us about how we can prepare strategically for a successful 2021. So many of us are out there in this Zoom or StreamYard land making all these plans of how 2021 is going to be so much different, but what are the steps that we need to take to make sure that that success actually takes place? So I'm excited to have Robert here to give us some insight about that. But before we get into all those things, let me give him the opportunity to introduce himself.
Well, thank you again, Lachelle, for having me. I always enjoy getting on with you and just hearing all of the things you're doing. Whenever I think I'm busy and I want to, have a pity party, I look at your life and I'm like, oh yeah, you still got some work to do. So I just want to applaud you for everything you do. Being America's Supermom, you are amazing. And thank you for having me here today.
Thank you.
And to the audience, for those of you all that haven't met me or haven't seen me on Facebook, my name is Robert Heath Sr. I'm the CEO of Legacy Leadership Consulting Group. And what we do is we help leaders wherever they are on the leadership journey figure out how to get the best out of themselves and how to get the best out of those that they lead. And that involves training, that involves coaching, that involves programs that we have available as well. So if you have any questions or anything like that, we've even got some books that we'll talk about a little bit later that you all can get. And if you shoot me an email, I can get you a e-copy of one of my books.
Awesome. So, first we're going to start off with the focus because everybody is pulling things out of the air. Oh, I want to make more money. I want to lose weight. I want to have better relationships. I want to get a new job. All these different things that happen in the beginning of the year. So let's just start with something basic like focus.
Oh, that's such a great point.
I love your analogy for that. So let's tell everybody how they can work that out.
Yeah, the big thing about focus, and this is kind of counterintuitive, right? We've heard about multitasking, and everybody feels like multitasking is the thing to do. You got to multitask, you got to multitask, you got to multitask. Well, the reality is the science is in. Multitasking is a myth. You don't actually multitask. What you do is you switch between tasks. And in a lot of the lean consulting and the manufacturing consulting that I do, we talk about what's called waste, right? And the whole idea is if you're constantly transporting material back and forth and nothing is happening, all of that transportation is waste. If you can shrink that down to only doing one trip instead of 50 trips, you can exponentially increase your productivity. It's the same thing with your brain. And the studies have shown that those people that can focus on a task, complete it, and then move on to the next task, complete it, and then move on to the next task are exponentially more productive than those that are constantly switching back and forth through tasks, doing a little bit over here, 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 and going back and forth. And that's because when the longer you're doing a task, the more in a state of flow you get. And once you're in that state of flow, you can 4 and 5 times your productivity levels when you're in that state of flow. But here's the problem. When you are distracted, when you check that email or you check that voicemail or you go and you look on Facebook or whatever it is that you're doing in that little bit of time, right? And it's only a minute, it's only 2 minutes, it's only 30 seconds, but that distraction can take you anywhere up to 15 minutes to get back to the state of flow that you were in when you got distracted. And so focus is going to be one of the most important things. If you want to exponentially increase your productivity, you've got to stay focused on the things that you're doing. You've got to figure out how to eliminate distractions, because if you can stay focused, if you can have laser focus, right? One of the things that we talk about, and I think this is the analogy that you were alluding to, Lachelle, right? The sun, nobody would ever say that the sun doesn't work hard, right? The sun puts out trillions of kilowatts of energy every day. It heats up the entire galaxy, right? But here's the interesting thing. The sun, even if you put a rod of steel out on the street for an hour, for a day, for a year, the sun would never be able to cut through that rod of steel. That would be an impossible task for the sun. But it's not because the sun isn't working hard. Now, here's the crazy thing. A laser with only a couple of hundreds of watts, not trillions of kilowatts, not kilowatts, a couple hundred watts, can cut through a bar of steel in a matter of seconds. The only difference between the sun and the laser is that the laser is focused. whereas the sun is dissipated energy. So many of us have our energy spread out across the entire galaxy of our world instead of focusing it on the thing that we need to be focused on. And so that's the number one tip that I would give anybody going into 2021. Figure out what is the one thing that you are going to focus on and put your energy concentrated on that. And you'll get it done way faster than you ever thought was possible.
I love that. I mean, that just really makes a lot of sense. And I love those analogies because, this helps people to get on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
So many times that we could say, well, I want to be successful, but my definition of success and your definition may not be the same. So we don't even start out on the same page.
Exactly.
But when you use these analogies, it makes it easy, especially if you're dealing with a topic that we all need some help in.
Yes. I understand. And it's so funny that you talked about that definition of success. That's actually, right, that's one of the other steps that we talk about. And that's actually the kind of precursor to getting focused is you got to define success. That's the first thing that I teach my students when we talk about becoming a master of your time. I actually put a post on Facebook today about this. So many of us start our days, and the first thing that we do is we check our email, we check our voicemail, we check our calendar, we figure out what we're supposed to do. But when we do that, what we're really doing is managing everybody else's expectations of us. But the problem is your time is your time. Nobody else gets to live this life. And nobody else has to wake up with your problems or go to bed with your failures. You do. Right. And at the end of the day, I think I saw a meme the other day. It was Jimi Hendrix. He was like, I'm the only person that's going to have to deal with my life when I die. So let me live it.
Oh, that's good.
Right. And I was like, that was powerful. There you go, Jimmy. I knew. Yeah. Right. Like, and at the end of the day, so many people spend their time managing other people's priorities. And don't get me wrong. We are social creatures. We live in groups and communities, and it's necessary that we be good team players. But the thing that we have to realize is that you got to take care of you first. You got to figure out what's important to you. What is your life's purpose, right? One of the things we talk about at Legacy is that everybody, I believe, has a divine purpose, a reason for being here. You have a gift inside of you. And your duty, right? The tax that you pay for walking this earth and being on this world is to manifest that gift so that you make not only your life the best that it can be, but everyone else is enriched because you showed up, right? And understanding that manifesting your greatness is all about being able to define for yourself what that is, to define success, to understand why you're here, what you're supposed to be doing. And that's where you should start your day. Before you check your email, before you look at your voicemail, before you look at your calendar, you should check your day based off of what is important to me. What did I decide? What's that thing that I'm focusing on for the year, for the quarter, for the month, for the week? And make sure that your day starts out in alignment with those decisions that you have made that are already resonant with who you are and what your purpose is. If you can do that every day, what you will find is that there's more than enough time to get other people's stuff done after you get your stuff done. But very rarely is there enough time to get your stuff done after you get other people's stuff done.
So true. And you don't have any energy. I mean, exactly. I learned that lesson the hard way. 13 years of depression. Okay, because trying to do all things for all people.
Exactly.
So, I think that is just really key. So what would you recommend people that are watching to get in tune with what their gifts are?
That's a great question. And so there's a number of different things. And here's the part where I'll say it's not an easy solution because we've literally been conditioned away from exercising these muscles, right? Okay. It's one of the most difficult things that I teach my students how to do. It's something that takes a while, but it's just like learning to work out or learning a new sport or learning a new skill, whatever it is. If you're dedicated, right, we don't have to do a bunch of improvement. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits. 1% improvement a day for a year, you're 37 times better by the time that year is over. It's not like you got to do a whole bunch. So to that question, there's a couple of basic things that you have to do. First of all, you got to start exercising that muscle, right? Now, depending on what your religious belief is or what your spiritual belief is, right? Whatever you call God, whatever you call source, universe, the thing that connects us all. One of the things that's most important is that you get in tune with that reality. understanding that you are part of something bigger than yourself, right? When I talk to my students, I talk about, hearing the voice of God, hearing the God in you that is telling you what you are here for, that gift, that special thing that's inside of you, and becoming aware of what resonating with that sounds like, what living in alignment feels like. And a lot of that starts off with figuring out and asking over and over, right? You have not because you ask not. The whole idea being, ask, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? You ask those questions, and it's not just going to pop out one day. You ask it multiple days, over and over and over again. Make sure you start your day always with that. And what you'll start to see is you'll start to get more attuned to what that voice sounds like, because like I said, you've been conditioned away from that voice. You've been conditioned to listen to everybody else. You've been conditioned to external validation. You've been conditioned from the time that you're a child, you listen to your parents telling you what you should and shouldn't do, what the things are that are good and bad. Then you go to school, and guess what? You get a whole other set overlaid on top of that of teachers and administrators and other adults that are telling you what you should and shouldn't do and what good is. You didn't know what a good grade was. Your teacher had to tell you what a good grade was. And then your mama had to affirm what your teacher said a good grade was, because that was the hierarchy that you said. You didn't get to decide what you wanted to do in school. Then you move from school to either higher education or to the workplace. And guess what? You get a whole other overlay, because now you've got bosses that tell you what a good job is, and they tell you what a good salary is. And society then tells you all these types of things. And what I'm talking to you about right now is getting to the root of that by saying, all of those things are great suggestions, but they don't get to define what good is for you. You get to define what good is for you. And that is through a conversation that you have with the divine. That's a conversation that you have with the universal source of all things. And that is something that you have to cultivate. You have to develop that skill. So the first step is ask the question. The second step, and this is one of the kind of things that I do to help people to kind of get used to hearing it. First of all, don't think that you're so far gone that you don't know what it is at all. There are things that you love to do. There are things that light you up. And one of the things that I have my students do is I have them write out a list of 25 things that they just enjoy in life. And it can be something as simple as watching a sunset. It can be something as complex as setting up an event, right? And event planning and party and creating a party, or whatever the case may be, or starting a company, whatever it is. But if it gives you joy, it needs to be on that list, because that'll allow you to start reflecting and getting comfortable with thinking about life from a perspective of pursuing joy, not happiness, not temporary, fleeting pleasure, but joy. Right? That peace that comes with it, that joy and that understanding of knowing that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. So that's the way that I would start. And then there's a number of different things that we have available for people to kind of help them along that journey.
Awesome. So we have Laquita Parks, who is watching, and she is a publisher.
Okay. How you doing, Miss Laquita?
She says, a very wise person once told me that self-preservation is the law of the land. I have to put my life vest on first.
Yes.
So that was good.
Yes.
I'm going to have to connect you guys. But that just really is profound, because I love being able to get in alignment with self, because I recognize not being in alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And, we just either self-medicate, get in denial. We want to hide, bury our head in the sand and do all these other things that we think are going to just kind of move the needle, and ignore a problem that gets to be something worse, whereas the peace comes from doing what you're in alignment with.
Exactly.
So if somebody is at that space of, how do they make that transformation from being out of alignment? You're recognizing it. You're having that awareness. Mm-hmm. What should they do next?
Right. So there's a couple of things. First of all, is to accept that reality. It's kind of like, oftentimes when we have kind of chronic or nagging pain, like we think that something's wrong. Mm-hmm. And what we don't realize is the appreciation and the gratitude we need to have for that pain, right? In the Marine Corps, when I was a Marine Corps officer, one of the things that we used to have on our t-shirts is pain is weakness leaving the body. And while that's great for Marine Corps and getting you in be the biggest, baddest fighting force on the world, in reality, that's not good in the long term. Like, we don't want to think about pain as weakness leaving the body. And similarly, we don't want to think about overwhelm as something that needs to be avoided like the plague. I talk to my students all the time that overwhelm is a lot like pain. What it is an early warning device that your mind and your spirit, your soul has to tell you that something's out of alignment. Just like pain is an early warning device to tell you that something catastrophic is coming. It's actually really good for you to recognize that when you're in tune with your body. The reason why so many people are afraid of pain is because they're not in tune with their bodies. They don't know how to do things differently. They don't know how to adjust so that they can be back in alignment. Right. But once you get in tune with your body, pain is a very helpful thing for athletes, for people that are in tip top shape. Pain is the thing that tells them, oh, I need to take a rest. Oh, I need to not train so hard today. They know how to listen to their bodies. Similarly, your overwhelm quotient is something that you need to be able to listen to. When you feel like you're close to burnout, when you feel like you don't want to wake up on Monday morning, that's telling you that you've been out of alignment for too long and you need to address that alignment issue. Now, again, it's not something that you're going to fix in one day. You're going to, it takes a while, right? I take my students through a 12-week course that helps them to develop the appropriate habits so that not only can they always be living in alignment, but they can overcome the obstacles that are in their pathway every day to getting into alignment. We give them the tools to build successful habits, to ask the right questions, to do the right affirmations, to have the right meditations every day, to put their mind and their body and their spirit all in the right frame of reference and the frame of mind every day, so that they don't have to deal with all of the chronic, right, the aggregate overwhelm. Right? One of the things that we talk about so often for people is, your brain allows in just our default setting, because survival is the baseline, right? That's the kind of binary. You either survive or you don't. You either alive or you dead, right? But what we try to get our students to understand, we call it the course Thriving in Chaos. It's the fact that survival should be your floor, but you want to live a life that is thriving. And the way that you do that is you ensure that every day you are putting into yourself, pouring into yourself. And instead of trying to pour out of yourself, pour out of your cup into others, you understand that if you are overflowing from your abundance, you can fill them. Right. I put out this post and I love this picture. Right. You've got the champagne fountain at weddings. Right. You got the stacked glasses of champagne. Not one glass pours, quote unquote, into another, but all of them get filled from the overflow, from the abundance of the champagne glass on top.
I love that. Mm-hmm.
And that's good. What you got to recognize. So that's the big thing, is to recognize that you are not going to change the world the way that you feel like you're called to. You're not going to do the amazing things that you feel you're called to do by pouring yourself out into the world. What's going to happen is you have to make sure that you're constantly pouring into yourself and letting your abundance bless the people that are around you.
So true. And I mean, that's scriptural. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
There we go.
So what are you putting in your heart?
Exactly.
Right? Or not putting in your heart. So
exactly.
It's so true. I mean, I just, there's times when I'm just quoting scripture and I'm thinking, man, how did I, remember that scripture? But if you're praying, look, I got a lot of reasons to pray over here with 8 kids learning. So you got to stay in that word. Okay. So now,
exactly.
So what do you have going on, with your legacy company for 2021?
So in 2021, we're doing a number of different things. We're trying to scale. This year we were 6-figure business. We're trying to scale. We're trying to 10x this year. We're trying to do something big. Trying to go to 7 figures this year. And part of that is because we have, the 3 different prongs. We work with corporations and larger organizations. We work with small businesses, and we work with leaders and, kind of from principals and teachers and people who just are in leadership positions, but are feeling burnt out. They're trying to juggle being good at their career, taking care of their family, and then having some time to take care of themselves. And they're getting to that point where they see burnout coming. Right. And in all of those programs, one of the things that we're trying to do is expand how many people we're serving. So we're trying to we have a new diversity and inclusion and equity workshop that really comes at it from the perspective of how do you make an excellent company? Let's not look at it from the position of how do we fix this problem? Let's look at it from the position of How do we build something excellent so that it's always fixing problems? Because we can't foresee what the solution that we have today is going to do tomorrow, but we can create a system that can deal with that thing. So how do we do that? And we're putting that out to corporations. We just dealt with a company down in North Carolina that loved the program. We got all their leaders together, and they're excited about working with us throughout the next year to kind of implement some of the things that they were able to create during the workshop. We're doing a lot of that type of stuff. And I can tell you, scaling is a very interesting thing. And that's one of the things that, as we were talking about kind of before we came on camera, one of the things that people have to realize is after you get to this point where you can, what we call is become a time master, where you can lead yourself, where you can master your time. Once you start leading others, one of the things to realize is that a lot of the problems that you think you're going to see are just the tip of the iceberg. There are things that you're not even aware of that are going to come your way. And so be prepared to be constantly learning. Be prepared to be a student. Be prepared to not be good at this, right? I once told my daughter, right? My daughter's 13. So we were having a talk and I was like, here's the thing I need you to understand. I have a master's degree in education. I have taught hundreds of other people's 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds. However, I have never had my own 13-year-old. So I'm gonna make mistakes. And when you turn 14, I will never have had a 14-year-old before. So I'm gonna make more mistakes. And when you turn 15, I will never have had a 15-year-old before. And when you turn 40, I will never have had a 40-year-old before. So I just want you to get prepared for life. And I'm going to say I'm sorry, and I'm going to apologize when I make the mistakes, and I'm going to leave room for you to make mistakes as well. And I think sometimes as leaders, we feel like we have to be perfect. We feel like we can't make mistakes. We got to know everything. We got to be prepared for everything. And when you do that, you're setting those that you lead up for failure, because they're trying to emulate what they see from you. And if they don't see you make mistakes, if they don't see you pick yourself up off the ground, if they don't see you have to say you're sorry, then they think that it doesn't happen, that at some level they have to get to this point where they're perfect. And so they're striving for something that they can never attain. And that's only because you're not giving them the real view, the real vantage point of what it means to be in your position. And so that's something that I'm constantly kind of grappling with. Like I said, I've run a 6-figure business before. I've never run a 7-figure business before. So there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to learn on the way to doing that. That's going to be different. But I love the fact that I can go to my team and I can say, hey, y'all, here's the deal. I had no idea about this. I messed this up. So in the future, we're not going to do that. And my team gets to see it. And I love when I get to hear my team say things like, I'm so glad to be part of this team. I'm learning so much about myself and about leadership. I love the fact, and I've literally had my team members thank me for reaching out to them to be part of my team. And I'm like, no. Thank you for doing the work that you do. But it's a really good thing as a leader to hear your team feel like it's a blessing to be part of the team.
Yeah, I love that. Now, so you bring up a good point about dealing with the mistakes. You know, we have that all the time in business, you know, whether it be financial mistakes, relationship mistakes, or, you know, whatever the case is, because you never know what you don't know and what's going to happen as you grow. So what is your philosophy for how you handle those mistakes? You know,
so I have stolen this philosophy from the great late Dr. Maya Angelou, and she said it this way: you've got to give yourself grace. You didn't know what you didn't know, but when you know better, you will do better. And that's the way I kind of try to take it. I try to think about, did I know better? Should I have done something different? Because that's an alignment question, right? If I had an intuition and I didn't follow my intuition, that's me learning. Oh, yep, I should have went right instead of left. But if I had no idea, if I literally thought I was going the right way, and I got to chalk that up to inexperience. Now we've learned. Now we know. And again, letting your team see you go through that type of stuff, it takes the pressure off of them to be perfect. And here's the interesting thing, and I talk about this and why can't people just do their jobs? Most teams, most teams are less productive than they can be, not because people are lazy, but because people actually care too much. And because they care so much, they're not willing to step outside of the box of things that they know that they can do well. there's a whole range of things that they might be able to do well, but they're not going to take a chance on that, because if they mess up, they're afraid of what it'll do to the team. As a leader, you have to give them that space to make mistakes, because what you know as a leader is that's where the growth happens. That's where the synergy happens. That's where the exponential innovation happens. But they will not go there if you don't make it safe for them to go there.
That's good. That's good. So, hey, I need to have my little notebook out, because hey, you left some good ones out here.
Hey,
This
that
is
little
my
one.
daughter Hope.
Mom.
Yes, I'm doing a live right now, so hold on. She is not a stranger to the video, okay?
I love it. I love it.
So tell everybody, how do we get a hold of you? Because you've dropped some nuggets about your books, your programs. What is the best way for people to get in contact with you? Because 2021 is around the corner, okay? Whether we're ready for it or not. So some people need to get that intel and insight as they move forward.
Yeah, so that's a great question, great point. And I want to let all of your viewers know right now, one of the things that I'm doing specifically, because it's the holiday season and I know a lot of people are off or having a little bit of a lull, a little bit of a break, I've opened up some time in my calendar to speak directly with people. So if anybody that's listening just needs to get some clarity on some things, wants to figure out, they've got some questions they need to get answered, here's what I'm going to do. You can reach out directly to me via my email, and I'll give you my email. It's Robert. Now get ready to write, because this part is long, at legacyleadershipmastery.com. Again, that's Robert at legacy, Legacy, leadershipmastery.com. If you shoot me an email, just let me know that you heard about me on America's Supermoms podcast, then I will go ahead and get you a link to get on my calendar. We can get some free time for us to talk, and just to give you a little bit more clarity about what you need to do going forward, right? And I'll even throw in a free copy of my book, Thriving in Chaos: How to Manifest Your Greatness and Get More Done While Working Less, that just came out. It just became a Amazon bestseller here in last September, October timeframe. So we'll get you a free e-copy of that as well. I want to be able to give back to the community, because I know that getting started, changing this next year is really important to a lot of people. So again, shoot me an email at robert@legacyleadershipmastery.com, and I got you.
Awesome. And so Laquita says, speak, Brother Robert. So true. We oftentimes look for an inconvenient vantage point. So that is really good. So we have really enjoyed you today. So, you always come bringing fire. Okay. That's one thing I will say. You got to be ready. Okay. Get prepared. You got to have your fire gear on when you're coming, because, hey, you burning through some excuses. Okay. There's no excuse after you get done.
There we go. That's the goal. We're trying to unleash and
Amen.
Right? Set people free.
Yeah. That's how you grow. So we just thank you again for coming on, and I definitely will be reaching out again in 2021, because I think this is one of those. I love that, you don't have to be mean about it, but it's like rip that Band-Aid off for some people, right?
Yes. You gotta
have those
Les Brown said it like this: you don't gotta be great to get started, but you do gotta get started to be great.
Amen. So thank you so much. I want to wish you a wonderful holiday season. Happy New Year to you, and looking forward to connecting in 2021.
Definitely. Same to you. And thank you for all you do and all the amazing work that you're putting out in the lives that you're changing. I just really appreciate just being connected to lights like you. So you are an inspiration. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And you guys that are watching, I encourage you to reach out to Robert. Like he said, hey, you have to begin to take that first step. There are people out there that will help you, and Robert is one of them. And he has some great nuggets of wisdom. I mean, this is only a tip of the iceberg, okay? The stuff that he shared today, because we just don't have enough time. And I don't even know if y'all ready. You got to do stuff like this in small doses. So I encourage you to have that conversation with them, and just have a great day. We want to thank y'all for watching, and we will see y'all on the next episode. So y'all take care. Bye.